Okay, hello everybody. So today we're going to be taking a look at the hymn Epnevma, and this will be a hymn that we're going to break up into three parts. The first part covering the first verse, the second part covering the second verse, and the third part covering the third verse. Now, there are more than three verses of the hymn, but usually when the hymn is sung, you'll see it either be done in a way where it's just the first verse, the first and third, or in the longest version of it, you'll see the first, second, third. The hezet for all of the verses after the third are the same. So once you know the third verse, you can kind of just apply them to all of the following verses. But in this case, we're just going to learn the first, second, and third verse, and we're going to split it up into those three parts. So why are we learning the hymn Epnevma? What is the significance of it, right? Well, the first thing is that we recognize Epnevma from the Feast of Pentecost, right? The descent of the Holy Spirit upon the apostles. And this makes sense in terms of what we read in the words of the hymn. The second instance or occasion that we will sing the hymn Epnevma is that of the crowning ceremony that is done in the during marriage. So we'll sing it on those two occasions. Now, I want to take a look at the words of Epnevma, which translates to the hymn of the Holy Spirit. But it reads, "The Spirit of comfort came down upon the apostles on the feast of Pentecost, and they spoke in many tongues. It came to pass, when the days of Pentecost were completed, that all 12 apostles were gathered together. The Spirit of comfort came down from heaven, distributing upon each one, and they spoke in many tongues." Now, in both the crowning prayer, right, during a marriage ceremony, and during the Feast of Pentecost, we celebrate and acknowledge the work of the Holy Spirit and sanctifying and in coming down upon disciples, right? Being the original 12 apostles or us who are also disciples of Christ. So that's the occasion and a little bit of background about the hymn Epnevma. Now, in this video, we're going to cover just the first verse, which is up here. Okay. Now, as we usually note, we have our long notes, we have our medium notes, and we have our short notes. Now, I'm going to sing out just the first verse so you can kind of get an idea for it. But here's how it's going to go. Epnevma empara kliton fi et af igeni apostolos chenepshai enti pentikosti afsaji chenhan mishen laas. Okay. So let's break it up piece by piece. Let's start with just the word Epnevma. Okay. Epnevma is going to go as the following. Epnevma. Okay, so just practice that. Epnevma. Epnevma. So notice we're starting out with a regular note and then a long note. So ep, nev, and ma are going to be long, while p is going to be not short, but it's going to be relatively shorter compared to these three notes, right? So it's epnevma. So at any point you can stop the video and just practice that, right? Epnevma. Okay. Emparakliton, or I guess we'll start with empara, is going to go like this. Empara. So notice how we go higher on the ra, right? It's empara, right? Ra. So you're noticing how the ra is going to be higher than the rest of these, right? So together, it's going to be pi pneuma empara. So it almost ascends in the pitch here on the empara. It's ascending in pitch, while this is kind of just regular, normal pitch, okay? Pi pneuma empara. Okay? So let's practice empara just on its own. Empara. So practice that. Empara. Okay. So it's going to go Pi pneuma empara. Okay. After empara, we have kliton. So empara kliton. Kliton, kliton. Okay, so practice that. Kliton. So all together, it's going to be Pi epnevma empara kliton. Okay, so Pi epnevma empara kliton. Pi epnevma empara kliton. Okay, so we're going to move from kliton to fi etafi. Okay, so we'll start here. Empara kliton fi etafi. Fi etafi. Okay, so practice that. Fi etafi. Fi etafi. One more time. Fi etafi. Okay, you're not going too high, but the E is going to be a little bit higher here. Fi etafi. Okay, so from kliton. Kliton fi etafi. Okay, this is going to go gen, so it's going to go a bit higher. Okay, it's going to be fi etafi. Gen ni apo. So gen ni apo is going to be higher in pitch in comparison to the rest of the hymn. Okay, so we start here. Pi epnevma empara kliton fi etafi gen. And notice there's a little bit of a break or a pause here that might help you, right? Because if you're going from fi to gen, you want to really put emphasis and make sure that the pitch on gen is going to go a little bit higher, right? So you don't want to just go fi et fi gen. It's not going to be like that. It's going to be fi et fi gen, right? So really build into that higher gen by giving yourself a little bit of a break here. Okay? So fi et fi geni apostolos. And likewise, we're going to put a little break here, right? Because stolos is going to be a little bit higher. Okay, so as you can see, we're starting lower in pitch on Pi epnevma and building up from here, building up to here in terms of the pitch. So we're going from low to high. So in total, from Pi epnevma to Ni apostolos is going to go like this. Pi epnevma empara kliton fi et afi geni apostolos. Okay, so practice this. Geni apostolos. Okay, so fi et afi geni apostolos. Okay, geni apostolos. So just practice the gen into new apostolos. Okay, geni apostolos. Okay. Then chen epshai is going to be a little bit lower. Chen epshai enti pentikosti. Okay, so you notice chen epshai is going to be a little bit lower. Geni apostolos chen epshai. Okay, practice that. Chen epshai, chen epshai. Okay, so just practice that. Chen epshai. Okay, one more time. Chen epshai. Okay, so practice it on your own. Chen epshai enti pentikosti avsaji. Okay, so starting from here. Fi et afi geni apostolos chen epshai enti pentikosti. Okay. Chen epshai enti pentikosti avsaji. Okay, so we're kind of going back low. Okay. Chen epshai enti pentikosti avsaji. Okay. Chen epshai enti pentikosti avsaji. And the sti is going to be a bit short here. So kosti. Okay, so practice that. Kosti. kosti afsaji. Practice this. Afsaji. One more time. Afsaji chenhan mish and las. Okay? Afsaji chenhan mish and las. Okay? So let's practice Afsaji. Afsaji. Okay? So it's kind of lower and short, kind of brief. Afsaji. Okay. Then we go back up. Chen han mish. Chen han mish. Okay, so practice that. Chen han mish. And this part is going to go and las. And las. So the two short notes here go us, right? So us. That's why it's two short ones, two brief notes. And las. Okay? So in total, this whole verse goes Pi epnevma empara kliton fi et afi Geni apostolos chenepshai enti Pentecosti afsaji chenhan mishen las. Okay. So on each of the parts that we're going over, make sure you're stopping and reviewing exactly what's going on, right? So making sure that everything is kind of like in tune in your head. So you have an idea, right? So stopping and pausing the video. And let's say, for example, like, afsaji, making sure that you have it down as afsaji, okay? And not afsaji or like afsaji or like some other way, right? It just afsaji, okay? These combination of medium and short and long notes here are also important. So we'll go over it one more time. Okay. So we'll start here. Chen han mish. Chen han mish. So the mish is going to be a little bit higher. Chen han mish. So you're building up in pitch. Chen han mish. Okay. So practice that. Chen han mish. You can keep chen and han a little bit lower. Okay, so chen han low, right? Chen han mish. The mish is gonna be high, right? So it's chen han mish and las. And the la is gonna start high and go back down. So from chen han mish to en las, you're going up on the mish. And then in us is going to go low. So us is low, but the rest here is going to be high. So chen han low, mi ish high, and us and us is going to be low, but the and us, these five notes here, these five medium notes, you can keep high as long as you make sure you go and us, and the us is low. So it should not be and us. It's not like that. And us. Okay. So make sure at the end here, you're ascending in pitch, and then you're beginning that slow descent in pitch down here before you begin the second verse. Okay. My biggest recommendation for the first verse is it's one of those verses that there's not a lot to confuse in terms of where the hezets are, right? There's no like endless loop you're going to get stuck in. With some of the second verse, there is. So for the first verse, my recommendation is to just listen on repeat the first verse, right? Just put in your headphones and just keep singing along to the first verse, right? Get down the words of the verse and then just sing along, and eventually you'll actually just have the first verse down. There's not as much hazet to really focus on in the first verse. And I think that's what makes the first verse very, very simple and much, much easier, at least in comparison to the second and maybe even the third verse, right? So one last time all together, and then you can move on to part two. Pi epnevma empara kliton fi et afi geni apostolos chene pshai enti pentikosti afsaji chen han mishen laas. Okay. So practice on your own. And when you feel like you have the first verse down, then you can begin verse number 2. And that's going to be part 2 of Pi Epnevma, which will also be uploaded on the channel. But I hope you found this somewhat helpful. And in any way that you could take away a portion of this video and say, you know what, this helped somewhat in my understanding. But I really, really thank you guys for all the support, all of the love, and I truly love you guys so much. If you ever need anything, please, please let me know. I would be more than happy to help. If you leave a comment, give me a message, text me anything you guys need relating to hymns or anything at all. I'm always here. I love you guys so much, and keep the service in your prayers.